Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm continuing my Don't Starve series. It's been a while since I've continued to the series, but I wanted to finish it up. So basically I'm going to be moving on with the series. But anyways, in this episode I'm doing Winona, and in the last episode I did Weber. First off, going into this guide, she has 150 HP, which is kind of like the normal amount, 150 hunger, and 200 sanity. So basically just normal character stats. Her favorite food is the vegetable stingers, which I'm actually not too sure how to cook actually in this game. Maybe I should do a video, well, maybe, about looking up all the different food items. Her birthday is September 13th. Alright, now for her backstory. She actually plays a really big part of the series because she's actually Charlie's sister, well, older sister. Which you can see it in her skill tree as Charlie basically gives the player a bunch of different powers. The thing with Winona's skill tree, which I'll explain later, is that it's actually really overpowered, but like I say, when we go into the game I'll explain everything. Basically, when her sister Charlie got kidnapped with Maxwell and got sent into the Constant, Winona spent like a decade looking for her. However, it was unsuccessful until one day, when all the leads led up to a factory, the factory started to blow up and there was a fire. Inside of there was a portal, which then Winona tried to help someone who was going into the portal and being sucked in. Upon trying to help this person, because the person was wearing a yellow glove, when she was pulling them, the glove fell off and the person fell through the portal. Winona seemed a little sad after that, but then saw Charlie at the other side of the portal. But then Charlie, because at this point in time there were two sides of Charlie, the good one and the evil side. The evil side of Charlie then kidnapped Winona and brought her into the Constant. Later on, after Charlie's both sides kind of had a compromise, then after that she decided to help Winona in a way by giving her special powers. Other than that, she actually has some skills in handiwork, as she can build all sorts of different contraptions, but I'll get onto that later. Now for her items. The current starting items that she has is trusty tape, which is basically like an item that she uses to craft all her other things. It doesn't really do anything, except the other cool thing about the tape is that you can use it to repair hats and stuff, kind of like a sewing kit. It's kind of like a cheaper one-time use sewing kit that can also be used for other items as well, such as building catapults. But anyways, I'll go on into the game right now. Alright, now I've loaded in as Winona. She looks a little different right here because I have her forge skin equipped. But moving on from that, I put a bunch of her items over here so I can explain them better. First off, she has a generator. This is what you basically use to power up all your devices like catapults. She has a better version of this, which is the Gemerator, where instead of using niter to fill it up and get the energy, you actually use gems. Or later on, when you upgrade your skill tree, you could use Pure Brilliance. Another thing you can also use for these are, if you upgrade to the Shadow Affinity, you can use Dark Field to fill these up. Well, these are for the regular ones. And same with the better version of the Dark Field. Basically, Dark Field can be used in this when you upgrade it enough. And for the Gem Raiders, you can use the Pure Brilliance, or if you go as far as beating the Celestial Champion, you can use the gems from that boss to then power them up indefinitely, meaning that they'll never run out again. Her default in-game crafts are a catapult, which shoots enemies nearby, a spotlight, which lights the way for the player. However, even though it lights the way for the player, it does not in fact actually warm you up, so you can't use it in winter to do anything like that. Oh yeah, and plus her trusty tape, which I already mentioned, restores armor, durability, and also is used to craft these different items. Another thing about Winona is that when it's nighttime and you're in pitch darkness, you get one extra hit from Charlie before you actually start taking damage. It's just mainly used as like I don't know how to explain it, but like an extra one shot before the player ends up dying. Maybe if you have armor on, maybe you could survive more hits, but that's basically it. Alright, now I'll be moving on to the skill tree, which, let me just say, this is probably the most broken and complicated skill tree ever. The only reason I call it broken is because you're allowed to use Lunar and Shadow Affinity right at the start. You just have to get enough skill points to unlock them. Now, this may be good for some players, However, I find the work more worthwhile because I mean, if every character just has the lunar affinity and stuff at the start of the game, then there's not really a point in defeating Celestial Champion. So you can probably see my argument there. I've already beaten Celestial Champion on my main account. I'm currently trying to work my way towards beating Field Weaver. However, whenever I'm doing like regular survival worlds, I'll just do it on Lunar Affinity only just to kind of even it out and make it more fair. However, Shadow Affinity is useful, and it's actually way more useful than the Lunar one. But I guess without a further ado, I'll explain all these different skills. This first skill is portability, which allows you to dismantle your structures. For example, this generator, I don't want in here. Now I can dismantle it and pick it up. This is useful for if you end up wanting to move generators and catapults. Like if you're trying to fight Bee Queen and just have like hundreds of catapults, but then like let's say next you want to fight Dragonfly, no problem, just dismantle them, pick them up, place them wherever you want. That's basically how that works. And you can basically do that with all of Winona's devices. Just trying to place this back down. Let me go on to the next skill. Alright, next one is Quick Charge. Basically, items and gadgets placed next to a generator recharge 100 times faster. Oh yes, a thing I forgot to mention about portability is you also learn how to create... Wait, where is it? Oh, here it is. The handy remote. This is an item which can't be equipped. I'm about 90% sure you used to be able to equip it, but I guess not. Basically, this works as a remote for, you guessed it, the catapults. You can either target... okay, here we go. Which, as y'all can see, I just shot a rock. There's barrage, which I want to say is like a faster firing in one direction. There's arm catapult, which I think just turns it on. And then there's also planar strike, which is for if you have lunar affinity, where oh, unless I'm just out of fuel. That might be the situation here. Basically, planar strike is like the regular targeting one, but except it's instead of being like a regular rock, it's actually a lunar rock, which you can probably guess does more damage to shadow enemies. So that's basically how that works. And now if I'm moving back to Quick Charge, basically, when you use this remote, it'll take damage. However, if you want to repair the durability, just place it down right here next to the generator, and it'll recharge over time. This next one, Energy Saver. Basically, before you upgrade to this skill, if you use your generator or gemerator, and let's say you place a bunch of catapults down, it'll always be using energy, and they only turn on when you fill them up. Basically, now whenever these items aren't in use, it doesn't drain battery. Instead, your energy is being saved, which is actually a pretty good skill all around, so you're not having to always use a bunch of items to, fill it up. This next one, Spacious Spotlight, allows you to upgrade your spotlights to light up a bigger area, meaning that they'll have more range and be able to light up your path easier. This next one, Hot Light, actually talks about what I just said a minute ago about spotlights not heating up the player. Basically, this does exactly that. The player can get heat up kind of like if it were a campfire, except more futuristic. Now, the remote, when you first get it, I believe you only have, I want to say you only have like arm catapult or something like that. Either that or it is only target. Basically, in order to unlock the other two abilities, you have to unlock them with the skill tree. Her skill tree is divided by 3 shelves. Shelf 1, which I already mentioned. Shelf 2, you need to have at least 3 skills from the first shelf in order to unlock this one. Same thing for the lunar ones. Basically, Barrage, all your catapults within the range of your handy remote have an increased firing rate for a short period of time, basically as a way to do like a lot of extra damage. Greater generators, 1, 2, and 3, all do the same thing, but basically it boosts the efficiency of the generators and generators by 25, then 50, then 100%. Pretty simple, but still pretty cool. This next one is Precise Targeting. All catapults within range of your handy remote fire at your selected target. So basically, you have Arm Catapult, that was the original default ability where your catapults are armed, but now you have the ability Target, which shoots directly at the target you want it to. I'm not sure, I don't think I can hit any rabbits from here, but if y'all see them over there. If this were a little more in range, I'd be able to shoot them. Rapid fire 1, 2, and 3, as you may have already guessed. It makes your catapult increase firing rate by 5, then 10, then 20%, meaning they'll be able to shoot your enemies faster. Explosive volley 1, 2, and 3 basically make it so that way your catapults deal damage to 25% larger area. And so in other words, your giant boulders that you shoot have more range and therefore can hit more enemies at a time, which is useful for Bee Queen if you're fighting off her minions. Now, in order to unlock the Lunar and Shadow Affinity shelf, you don't need to beat Celestial Champion or Phil Weaver, which in my opinion is literally broken, but even yet the skill tree isn't too good without these, so I guess it's fine. And you have to have at least 6 skills from the bottom shelves in order to unlock these. It's a little complicated, but I'll do my best to explain. So Enlightened to Strike is probably what you can guess it was. Let me see here, handy remote. It's the Planar Strike. I don't have any enemies nearby to show. But basically, this is the one I was telling y'all about that'll do planar damage and lunar damage. The Brilliance Generator ability is the one I was telling y'all about, where basically, if you're using, you can use pure Brilliance on generators instead of all your hard-earned Ruins gems, which I find this ability really helpful, because I don't feel like using a bunch of purple gems just to power up some machines temporarily. Honestly, I think it made it a lot better. Enlightened Generator allows you to use Enlightened Shards. Basically, it's the same thing as Pure Brilliance, except it's Enlightened Shards. However, Enlightened Shards don't run out of durability and fuel up your machines indefinitely. But keep in mind, these two only work for generators. The next one, these next few get a little weird. It's Founders Keepers 1 and 2. However, there is a lock. Basically, you can have, as Winona, both Lunar and Shadow Affinity. However, there's a secondary level of Lunar and Shadow Affinity. Basically, you have to pick which one you can level up, which in this case I did Shadow, but normally on normal mode, like if I was doing regular survival world, I'd do Founders Keepers 2. Basically, Founders Keepers 1 allows you to craft a pair of goggles. It allows you to find loot chests throughout the map. And you get to gain mastery over those items, which I'll explain more of that in a minute. Now, because I use the Shadow one, I can't use Founders Keepers 2. However, if I did pick that one, it would allow me to use, it'd basically be the same thing as Founders Keepers 1, except there's an upgraded version of it, where you get to find better supply boxes and get to build more unique structures. Which, I'll explain that in just a moment. Basically, let's see here. These are the goggles, which as y'all see that little, I'm not sure what to call that, on the side of the screen. Okay, as y'all can see, there's a box right there next to that enemy, where I can open this up for a puzzle. Now, currently my game's paused, so I can build this. Basically, sometimes these machines are fixed and you can just get your items no problem, but this one's broken, so basically by doing like a simple puzzle here, you can basically figure out how to fix it. You just gotta tap the button. Well, I'm using A because I'm on the Switch, but basically, you just tap the buttons until you figure this out. Almost got it. And here we go, I fixed the machine. If it's fixed, it'll then spit out a bunch of items. Try to grab this without getting hit here. Even though this helmet looks strong, it actually does not give you defense, so don't accidentally get tricked in thinking it'll help you in combat. You can see I got some ridiculous item names, like Dewinky. Yes, this is literally an item name. Ooh, and a calibrated perceiver. Now, the calibrated perceiver is not to be confused by the one you do in the Celestial Champion quest. Even though it's the same item, you can't use the one from that quest here, and you can't save up the calibrated perceivers from here to use them for the Celestial Champion quest. But basically, you have a few things in the overworld you can scan, and you can unlock a few more crafts. Basically, the calibrated perceiver, when you scan an item with it and you don't know the recipe for it, you unlock the recipe for it. If I scanned a crockpot right here, for example, I'd unlock the recipe for a crockpot. Magician's Chest. Now, you can't use it on other survivor items, because Winona will then say that's above my pay grade. However, to keep Winona more balanced, she can only do it on items. Well, she could do it on every item except other survivor items, because then if she could basically craft everything else everyone else could, then she'd be way too overpowered, and the game had to balance her somehow. The calibrated perceiver has a few extra unique things you can craft, unlike the normal items. This here, let me show you. There's the Portasol from the original Don't Starve, and the teleport station right here, which this teleporting station has to be within the range of one of these generators, so just keep that in mind, otherwise it won't work. The Portasol works just exactly how you'd expect it to. You tap a button and... Oh, okay, I forgot to mention. So basically, because I chose the Shadow one and not Founders Keepers 2, I can't use the Portasol. However, if I chose that one, I'd basically use this Portasol and then teleport right here. But because I don't have that affinity, I can't actually do that. One of the unique things you can craft or scan is Wobot, which then you can create a Winbot. Wobot organizes your items for you. The Winbots basically do the exact same thing. However, most players who play as Winona set up farms and stuff, like for enemies, like hound farms, or other kind of farms. Basically, the Winbot, what it could do for you potentially, is pick up all your loot for you, and if you sit down like a chest or something, then you can have them organize all your new items into the chest. Almost as an auto collection system. So it's just like one creative way you could potentially use this. I want to say, other than that, there's like nothing else for the lunar side of things, because I think I've already mentioned everything else. Basically, the lunar side allows you to get these special goggles, which do not help you in combat, and you can then begin to craft Winona bots, Winbots for short, and also you can be able to teleport to these respective structures if they're connected to your generators. But I mean, other than that, there's nothing else to the lunar side of things. Now for the Shadow one. Shadow Strike is the exact same as the lunar one, except now it's Shadow. Which basically, let me show y'all. If you use the handy remote, oh yes, if you get both lunar and Shadow, it'll just turn into Planar Strike. If you have just a lunar, then it'll be a lunar strike, and then if you have just Shadow, it'll be a Shadow Strike. But because I have both of them, it's considered a quote-unquote Planar Strike. But anyways, as you can see, I'm currently using the rose-colored goggles, which are a new item that Charlie gives the player, which I'll go more into depth about it later. These next two are the exact same as the other ones, except you can use the different various dark fields to then power up your regular generators. So that's basically it. I mean, there's not really anything else to go over for that, just because it's pretty basic. Now for the Shadow Seeker 1 and 2. Basically, the Shadow Seeker 1 allows you to craft these goggles, which I'm wearing right now, which also change the player's screen, just like how the lunar ones work. Something I find very unbalanced is the fact that the lunar one takes the fashion goggles and 2 electrical doodads to craft, versus these ones, which literally take 3 sticks and 12 petals, which can basically be crafted on day 1. So y'all can probably see my whole deal about the Shadow side being way stronger because of the fact that the lunar one takes a grind, and this one can be gotten on your first day of the game. The next ability for this Shadow, the rose-colored goggles is... I'm going to go to the side of some water here. Basically, you're allowed to create bridges, which you can cross water and the cave void, which I'll do a better demonstration right now. Basically, if you pretend like this here is a river and I can't cross it, if I click B right here to closely examine, as you can see there's like a swirling shadow right here. If I activate it, there's a new bridge made out of roses that I can cross. The developers, they sort of updated this to make it not last as long, so it's better to just run across these quickly, otherwise they'll be falling into the water or the void. So just keep in mind on how long you stay on top of one of these, as you'll see it start to shake, and then it'll go away. That, and also, if you look for a rose, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to find one right now, because I'd have to go like literally across the world just to find one, but basically if you examine one, you can pick it up, which then later on you can revive using roses. It's actually pretty overpowered, just because of how, well, I mean, they're kind of easy to find, but kind of hard. Also, you can find roses at spawn sometimes, like when you first load into the game. So that's another reason why the Shadow side is way more overpowered. I can't remember which one's which. Basically, I can't remember if the first one is the one that allows you to have the bridge or the reviving rose, and then the second one allows you to do the other one. But basically, let's say for example, when you first get these, I want to say it's the bridge one. So basically, the Shadow Seeker 1 allows you to create those roads, bridges, and then level 2 allows you to then be able to revive using roses. However, that's not all. This next ability is way too overpowered. Well, overpowered but still kind of balanced. Basically, it says the queen will watch over you, meaning Charlie no longer attacks Winona. And don't worry, if you're not wearing the glasses, she still won't attack you. The glasses are just like their own thing, but basically, now if you go into darkness, Charlie won't attack you. However, you will lose sanity really, really fast. So if Charlie won't get you, then the shadow enemies will. So it's just something to look out for. The next thing I ought to mention is the character disadvantages. Basically, her disadvantage is when she's crafting, she has a small chance to lose hunger points. Meaning, if she's crafting something really fast, like an alchemy engine, getting all your boards and stone, she'll sometimes lose hunger from that. It's kind of a weird disadvantage, but whatever. I mean, the developers had to do something. But basically, try to keep in mind when you're crafting, make sure you have some extra food with you in case you end up losing hunger points for that. A personal use for Winona would probably be using catapults for defeating bosses. I mean, most players, that's pretty much what they use her for. However, a lot of players use Winona as a drop-in, drop-out character. However, with her recent skill tree, they made it so that way only she can use her own devices. Because before that, let's say I played as Winona, I placed a bunch of catapults near Bee Queen, and then I swapped in as Wolfgang. Before the update, I'd be able to just tap the generator button, and all the catapults would basically defeat her for me. And then the player could then go somewhere else, assuming they're on video, and pretend that they defeated Bee Queen just using Wolfgang. Not anymore. Now only Winona can use her own devices, which honestly I think she needed it, because before that she was just a drop in, build your items, and then get out character. Which honestly characters should be played as. I mean, just saying, it feels kind of weird to just play as a character temporarily, use all their abilities, and then leave right away. Basically, her best use is just shooting and defeating bosses with the catapults, especially now since she has a remote and can target them a lot faster. Other than that, there's nothing else to talk about the character. I mean, I think I've covered everything. I have to say this is definitely one of the harder videos, but I'm glad I was able to finish it. Well anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, so please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Goodbye.